The stranger rode into Raton, New Mexico Territory on a Tuesday afternoon in late August 1882. With nothing but a borrowed horse, worn boots, and a reputation that preceded him like dust before a storm. Franklin Nash had been released from the territorial prison in Santa Fe just 3 days prior. His sentence served for a crime he had actually committed, a bank robbery gone wrong that left him with 5 years behind bars and no prospects for the future. The town watched him dismount outside the livery stable with suspicious eyes peering from behind curtains and over the tops of newspapers. Raton was a railroad town, prosperous and growing, the kind of place that had no use for ex-convicts trying to start fresh. The livery owner, a gruff man named Henderson, took one look at Franklin and crossed his arms. "We do not need your kind here." Franklin met his gaze steadily, his blue eyes tired but not defeated. At 28 years old, he had learned that arguing rarely changed minds. "Just need to stable this horse. Borrowed her from a rancher up north. Said she needed returning to the Martinez family." Henderson's expression shifted slightly. "The Martinez Ranch. You know them?" "No, sir. Just doing a favor for the man who gave me a ride when I got released." The older man studied him for a long moment, then jerked his head toward the stables. "Put her in the 3rd stall. Martinez's daughter will collect her when she comes to town." Franklin led the mare inside, grateful for the shade and the temporary reprieve from judgment. He brushed down the horse carefully, taking his time, in no hurry to face more hostile stares. He was checking the mare's hooves when he heard light footsteps behind him. "That is my father's horse." He turned and found himself looking at the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She stood in the doorway, sunlight creating a halo around her dark hair, which was pulled back in a practical braid. Her brown eyes assessed him with intelligence and caution. She wore a simple cotton dress that was dusty from riding, and her hands showed the calluses of someone who worked hard. "Yes, madam. I was told to return her here. She is in good condition, just needed some water and rest." Arabella Martinez stepped closer, running her hand along the mare's neck with obvious affection. "Where did you get her?" "My father has been searching for 3 days. She broke through a fence during that storm last week. Found her about 20 miles north near a creek. A rancher there knew the brand and told me where to bring her." Arabella looked at him properly then, really seeing him, and Franklin waited for the recognition to dawn. It did not take long. Her expression hardened just slightly. "You are the one everyone is talking about, the man from prison." "Yes, madam, Franklin Nash." He did not extend his hand, knowing she would not take it. "Arabella Martinez." She paused, her fingers still moving along the horse's mane. "Thank you for returning her. My father would have been heartbroken if something happened to Luna. She is a good horse. Seemed wrong to leave her wandering." Arabella studied him with those penetrating brown eyes, and Franklin felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with his criminal record. "Most people would have kept her, sold her even." "I am trying not to be most people anymore." Something flickered in her expression, understanding perhaps, or maybe just curiosity. "The town will not make it easy for you. Raton is not forgiving to outsiders, especially ones with a past." "I am learning that already." She moved toward Luna's head, preparing to lead her out. "What will you do now?" Franklin shrugged, the gesture more tired than casual. "Find work if anyone will hire me. If not, move on to the next town and try there." Arabella hesitated at the stable entrance, sunlight once again surrounding her. "My father might have work. We lost 2 ranch hands last month to the silver mines in Colorado. The work is hard, the pay is modest, but it is honest." Franklin felt hope kindle in his chest, small but warm. "Why would you offer that?" "Because you brought back my father's horse when you could have profited from her. Because everyone deserves a chance to start over. She met his eyes directly. And because I know what it is like when a town decides you are not good enough before you even begin. Before he could ask what she meant, she led Luna out into the afternoon sun. Franklin followed, watching as she mounted with practiced ease. She looked down at him from the saddle. The Martinez Ranch is 5 miles east of town, the large adobe house with the green shutters. Come tomorrow morning if you want the job. Ask for Vicente Martinez. Tell him Bella sent you. Then she was gone, Luna's hooves kicking up small clouds of dust as they cantered down the main street. Franklin stood there, aware of Henderson watching from the livery office, aware of the other townspeople staring. But for the first time since his release, he felt something other than despair. That evening, he spent his last few dollars on a bath and a shave at the barber shop, enduring the barber's silence and the pointed way other customers left when he entered. He slept in the stable, Henderson having grudgingly allowed it for a quarter, and woke before dawn to walk the 5 miles to the Martinez Ranch. The sun was just painting the sky pink and gold when he arrived at the adobe house with green shutters. It was larger than he had expected, surrounded by corrals and outbuildings that spoke of prosperity. Cattle grazed in distant fields, and he could see horses in a nearby paddock. A dog barked his arrival, and a moment later, a man emerged from the house. Vicente Martinez was in his 50s, with silver threading through his dark hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent his life outdoors. He looked Franklin up and down, his expression neutral. "You are the one who returned my horse." "Yes, sir. Your daughter said you might have work." Vicente's eyes narrowed slightly. "My daughter says many things. She has a soft heart." He crossed his arms. "I know who you are. The whole town knows. Bank robber served 5 years." Franklin nodded, seeing no point in denial. "Yes, sir. I paid my debt. I am looking to start over, work honestly." "Why should I trust you? You stole money from hardworking people. You should not trust me, not yet." Franklin met his gaze steadily. "But I will work harder than any man you have ever hired. I will prove myself through actions, not words. And if I give you any reason to doubt me, any reason at all, you can turn me over to the sheriff yourself." Vicente was silent for a long moment, studying him. Then Arabella emerged from the house, carrying a basket of eggs. She stopped when she saw Franklin, surprise and something else crossing her face. "Papa, you are talking with Mr. Nash, your charity case," Vicente said, but his tone held more resignation than anger. "You really think we should hire him?" Arabella set down the basket and came to stand beside her father. In the morning light, Franklin could see she was around 24 or 25, with the kind of beauty that came from character as much as features. "I think he deserves a chance. He could have sold Luna or kept riding. Instead, he walked 20 miles out of his way to return her." Vicente sighed, a sound Franklin recognized as paternal defeat. "You have your mother's stubborn streak." He turned back to Franklin. "You will work with Miguel, my foreman. He will tell you what needs doing. $15 a month, plus meals and a bed in the bunkhouse. You steal from me, you are gone. You slack off, you are gone. You cause any trouble, you are gone. Understood?" "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." "Do not thank me yet. Miguel works everyone hard and he does not care about your feelings." Vicente waved toward a barn where a stocky man was emerging. "Miguel, come meet our new hand." The foreman approached with obvious skepticism, his weathered face suspicious as Vicente explained the situation. Miguel looked Franklin over like he was evaluating a horse of dubious quality. "You know cattle, some. I grew up on a ranch in Texas before." Franklin trailed off. "Before you decided robbing banks was easier," Miguel finished flatly. "Well, this is not easy work. Can you rope?" "Yes, sir." "Mend fence?" "Yes, sir." break horses, Franklin hesitated. I can ride, but I am not a bronco buster. Miguel grunted, which might have been approval for the honesty. At least you do not lie about it. Come on then. We have fence down in the north pasture. If you can do a full day's work without complaining, maybe you will last longer than I expect. As Franklin followed Miguel toward the barn to collect tools and horses, he glanced back to see Arabella watching him. She gave him a small nod of encouragement before returning to the house with her eggs. That simple gesture warmed him more than the rising sun. The work was indeed brutal. Miguel drove him hard, testing him constantly, watching for any sign of weakness or dishonesty. Franklin welcomed it. After 5 years of prison routine, the physical labor felt cleansing, purposeful. His hands blistered and bled. His muscles screamed, but he did not complain. At midday, Arabella appeared on the ridge above where they were working, riding Luna and leading a pack horse. She dismounted and unpacked lunch, bread and cold meat and vegetables wrapped in cloth, along with jars of cool water. Miguel took his food and moved away to eat in the shade, leaving Franklin standing awkwardly, unsure of the protocol. Arabella handed him a wrapped bundle and a jar. You should eat. Miguel will not give you a break unless I enforce it. Thank you, Miss Martinez. Bella, she corrected, settling on a nearby rock. Everyone calls me Bella. Franklin unwrapped the food, suddenly aware of how hungry he was. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, the only sounds the wind through the grass and the distant lowing of cattle. How is your first day? Bella asked eventually. Hard, good. Franklin took a long drink of water. Miguel is testing me. Miguel tests everyone. He has been with our family since before I was born. He is protective. She looked out across the pasture. The town has been talking, you know, about my father hiring you. Franklin's jaw tightened. I can leave if it causes problems for your family. No, her voice was firm. My father makes his own decisions, so do I. She turned to face him directly. But you should know what you are walking into. Raton is not kind to people it deems unsuitable. And being associated with us might not help you as much as you think. Why not? Your family seems respected. Bella smiled, but it held sadness. Respected and accepted are different things. My mother was Apache from Jicarilla. She died when I was 12. Some people in town have never forgiven my father for marrying her, or me for existing. Franklin understood then. The comment she had made yesterday about knowing what it was like when a town decided you were not good enough. I am sorry. Do not be sorry. Be aware. She stood, brushing dust from her skirt. The banker, Horace Sullivan, has been trying to buy our land for years. My father always refuses. Sullivan has influence in this town, and he does not like people who defy him. Hiring you will give him ammunition. Then why did you suggest it? Bella gathered the empty cloths and jars, preparing to leave. Because Sullivan's opinion stopped mattering to me a long time ago, and because I meant what I said about everyone deserving a chance. She mounted Luna with fluid grace. Prove me right, Franklin Nash. She rode away before he could respond, leaving him standing there with the taste of her name in his mouth and something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. The days fell into a rhythm. Franklin woke before dawn, worked until his body ached, ate the meals that Bella or the ranch cook prepared, and collapsed into his bunk exhausted but satisfied. Miguel's tests continued, but gradually, grudgingly, the foreman's hostility softened into something resembling approval. You work hard, Miguel admitted one evening as they finished repairing a section of corral fence. Maybe you are serious about starting over. I am. Good, because Miss Bella, she has too much faith in people sometimes. I would hate to see her proven wrong. Franklin recognized the warning beneath the words. Miguel was not just the foreman, he was Bella's protector. I will not let her down. See that you do not." 3 weeks into his employment, Franklin accompanied Miguel and another ranch hand named Carlos into town for supplies. He had avoided Raton since that first day, knowing his presence made people uncomfortable. But Vicent wanted fence posts and barbed wire, and someone needed to help load the wagon. The moment they rolled onto Main Street, Franklin felt the change in atmosphere. People stared more openly now, their expressions mixing curiosity with contempt. Miguel ignored them, parking the wagon outside Morrison's general store with practiced indifference. Inside, the store owner, a thin man with spectacles, looked up from his ledger and frowned. "Miguel." "What can I do for you?" The usual order. Mr. Martinez sent a list. Miguel handed over a piece of paper. Morrison's eyes flicked to Franklin, who stood back near the door, trying to be invisible. "That the convict working at Martinez Place?" "That is Franklin Nash, yes." "A hard worker and honest man." "Honest," Morrison repeated with audible skepticism. He began gathering items from the shelves, his movements sharp with disapproval. "Whole town is talking about Vicent hiring a criminal. Not good for business, not good for the town's reputation." "Vicent makes his own decisions," Miguel said calmly. "Well, some of us think those decisions are getting questionable. First he marries an Apache woman, God rest her soul, then he lets their half-breed daughter have too much say in ranch business, and now he is employing thieves." Franklin's hands clenched into fists at his sides, but Miguel shot him a warning glance. "Watch your mouth, Morrison. Miss Bella has more integrity than most people in this town." Morrison sniffed. "I am just saying what others think. There is talk, that is all. Talk about whether someone with Nash's background should be around a young woman like her. Unchaperoned, out on the range." The implication made Franklin's blood boil, but before he could speak, a new voice cut through the tension. "Morrison, your store smells like gossip and mothballs, and I do not know which is more unpleasant." Everyone turned to see Bella standing in the doorway, her arms crossed and her expression fierce. She walked in with the confidence of someone who had weathered too many insults to be cowed by more. "Miss Martinez, I was just insulting me and my father's employee. I heard." She moved to stand beside Franklin, a deliberate choice that made Morrison's eyes widen. "Franklin works harder than any ranch hand we have had in years. He is respectful, honest, and kind to our animals. Everything you just implied is false and cruel. Now, Miss Martinez, and for your information, I am never unchaperoned. Miguel or Carlos or one of the other hands is always present. Not that I need a chaperone at 25 years old on my own family's property." Her voice could have cut glass. "Do you have my father's supplies ready or not?" Morrison sputtered, but he finished gathering the items and tallied the cost. Miguel paid, and Franklin helped load everything onto the wagon in tense silence. Bella stayed with them, her presence a shield against the stares and whispers. As they prepared to leave, a well-dressed man emerged from the bank across the street. He was in his 50s, with silver hair and expensive clothes that marked him as important. Horace Sullivan, Franklin guessed, recognizing him from Bella's description. Sullivan approached with a politician's smile. "Vicent, I did not." "Oh, Miss Martinez, always a pleasure, Mr. Sullivan." Bella's tone was coolly polite. Sullivan's eyes moved to Franklin, assessment sharp despite the smile. "And you must be the new ranch hand, Nash, is it?" "Yes, sir." "Fascinating. An ex-convict working at the Martinez Ranch. Vicent must be getting desperate for help." The words were friendly, but the subtext was not. "Papa hires good workers," Bella said firmly. "Franklin has proven himself more than capable." "I am sure," Sullivan said smoothly. "Still, it must be difficult having such a person around. If your father is struggling with the ranch, Bella, my offer still stands. A very generous offer for the property. We are not selling. The cattle market is volatile, one bad season and—" He spread his hands. "Just keep it in mind. I would hate to see your family lose everything because of pride." He tipped his hat and walked away, leaving an uncomfortable silence. Bella's jaw was tight with anger. That man has been circling our ranch like a vulture for 10 years. He seems powerful, Franklin ventured. He owns the bank, half the businesses in town and most of the town council. Bella climbed onto the wagon seat. But he does not own us. The ride back to the ranch was quiet, each of them lost in thought. Franklin understood now why Bella had warned him. The town's prejudice was not just about him. It was about her, her family, their refusal to conform or sell out. Hiring him had been both an act of kindness and an act of defiance. That evening, as the ranch hands gathered for dinner in the bunkhouse, Carlos brought news from town. Sullivan is stirring up trouble, says it is not safe having a criminal around. Some folks are agreeing. Miguel cursed in Spanish. Sullivan wants any excuse to make Vicent look bad, make him sell the ranch. We should tell Mr. Martinez, another hand suggested. He already knows, Miguel said grimly. Vicent is no fool, but he is stubborn too. If he backs down now, Sullivan wins. Franklin set down his fork, his appetite gone. Maybe I should move on. I do not want to cause problems for this family. You move on and Sullivan wins anyway, Miguel said. Shows he can run off anyone who works for Vicent. No, you stay and you prove him wrong. Work hard, keep your nose clean, give them no ammunition. Over the following weeks, Franklin did exactly that. He worked from dawn until after dusk, taking on the hardest jobs without complaint. He fixed fences, moved cattle, repaired buildings, and slowly earned the respect of the other ranch hands. But more than that, he found himself drawn increasingly to Bella. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Strong and independent, yes, but also kind and thoughtful. She worked alongside the men when needed, roping and riding with skill that matched any cowboy. She kept the ranch accounts, managed the household, and cared for her father with obvious devotion. And she treated Franklin not as an ex-convict, but as a person worthy of respect. They began talking during those midday meal deliveries. Small conversations at first, about the weather and the work, but gradually deepening into something more. She told him about her mother, a Jicarilla Apache woman who had taught her about herbs and tracking and seeing the world with patient eyes. About growing up between two cultures, never quite belonging to either. About her dreams for the ranch and her father's health, which worried her though Vicent refused to admit any weakness. Franklin, in turn, told her about his own past. The poverty that had driven him to desperation, the bank robbery that had seemed like the only option at the time, the years in prison that had taught him the true cost of bad decisions. He did not make excuses, but she listened without judgment, and that meant everything. You regret it? She asked one afternoon as they sat in the shade of a cottonwood tree, having delivered lunch to the men working on a distant fence line. Every single day, Franklin said honestly. Not just the consequences, but the act itself. I told myself I was stealing from rich men who would not miss it. But that money belonged to people who worked hard for it. I took their security, their peace of mind. That is not something you can give back, even after serving time. Bella was quiet for a moment, watching the clouds drift across the sky. My father says a person's past matters less than what they choose to do with their future. Your father is a wise man. He is also a worried man. The ranch is not doing as well as he pretends. The last 2 winters were hard, we lost cattle, and the prices are down. Sullivan knows this, which is why he keeps pushing his offer. Franklin looked at her, seeing the strain beneath her calm exterior. "Is that why you do so much of the work yourself? To save money on hired help?" "Partly. Also because this ranch is my home, my legacy from my mother's people and my father's dream. I will not let it fail without fighting." She met his eyes. "And I will not let small-minded people dictate who is worthy of a chance." The moment stretched between them, charged with something unspoken. Franklin was acutely aware of how close she was, how the sun caught in her hair, how her eyes held depths he wanted to explore. But he was also aware of the vast distance between them in every way that mattered socially. "Bella," he started, then stopped, unsure how to say what he felt. She stood, brushing off her skirt, the moment breaking. "We should get back. Papa will want the wagon for a supply run tomorrow." As they rode back to the ranch, Franklin wondered if she had felt it too, that pull between them, and if she had, whether she thought it was as impossible as he did. The answer came sooner than expected. 2 days later, at the Sunday church service that Vicent insisted the ranch hands attend, Franklin sat in the back pew, very aware of the whispers and stares. The Martinez family sat near the front, Bella beside her father in a dress of deep blue that made Franklin's throat tight. Reverend Thompson's sermon was about redemption and forgiveness, which Franklin suspected was deliberate. The Reverend was one of the few people in town who had spoken to him without immediate hostility. But when the service ended and people filed out, Sullivan was waiting on the church steps, surrounded by several prominent townsmen. "Vicent," Sullivan called out, his voice carrying. "A word, if you would." Vicent paused, Bella at his side. Franklin hung back with Miguel in the other hands, but close enough to hear. "What is it, Sullivan?" "The town council has concerns. About safety, about propriety." Sullivan gestured to his companions, who nodded with practiced solemnity. "Having a convicted criminal working your ranch in close proximity to your daughter, it is not appropriate. How I run my ranch is my business. But your ranch borders other properties. What if Nash decides to resume his criminal activities? What if he proves dangerous?" Bella stepped forward, her voice clear and firm. "Franklin has been nothing but respectful and hardworking. These accusations are baseless. My dear Miss Martinez, you are young and, forgive me, naive about such matters." Sullivan's tone was patronizing. "A man with Nash's background cannot be trusted, especially around a young woman of your particular circumstances." The pause before "particular circumstances" was deliberate, a reference to her mixed heritage that made several onlookers shift uncomfortably. Vicent's face darkened with anger. "Enough, Sullivan. You have no authority over my ranch or my family." "Actually, I do have some authority, as president of the bank that holds the mortgage on your property." Sullivan's smile was cold now. "A mortgage that is coming due in 6 months. I would hate for any complications to affect the renewal terms." The threat was clear. Vicent held Sullivan's gaze for a long moment, then turned and walked toward his wagon. Bella followed, but not before shooting Franklin a look of such distress that it cut him deeply. That evening, Franklin found Vicent in the ranch office, staring at ledgers with exhausted frustration. He knocked on the door frame and Vicent looked up. "Sir, I need to say something." Vicent waved him in. "I know what you are going to say. That you should leave, that you are causing problems. I have heard it from 3 different ranch hands already tonight. They are right, though. Sullivan is using me as leverage against you. If I leave, maybe he backs off, and maybe he finds another excuse." Vicent set down his pen. "Franklin, I fought in the war between the states. I survived prejudice when I married Maria. I built this ranch from nothing through hard work and determination. I will not let a man like Sullivan dictate how I run my business or treat my employees. But your mortgage, is my problem, not yours." Vicent stood, moving to look out the window at the darkening ranch. "You know what my wife told me once? She said that standing up for what is right is never easy, but it is always necessary. Sullivan wants me to treat you like you are worthless because of your past. If I do that, I become what he is, a man who judges others to feel superior." Franklin felt emotion tighten his throat. "Thank you, sir. Thank me by continuing to prove him wrong. Work hard, stay honest, be the man you are trying to become." Vicent turned to face him. "And Franklin, I see how you look at my daughter. I am not blind." Franklin's heart hammered. "Sir, I would never, I know. You are too respectful and too aware of your position, but I also see how she looks at you." Vicent's expression was unreadable. "Bella is strong and smart. She knows her own mind. I will not forbid something that has not even happened yet. But know this, if you hurt her, prison will seem like a vacation compared to what I will do to you. I would never hurt her. I care about her too much." "Good. Then we understand each other." Franklin left the office, his mind spinning. Vicent's words had confirmed what he had barely let himself acknowledge. He cared for Bella, more than cared if he was honest. But what could he possibly offer her? He was an ex-convict with nothing to his name, working for $15 a month. She deserved so much more. But the heart, he was learning, did not care much about logic. The next morning, Bella intercepted him on his way to the north pasture. "Franklin, wait." He stopped, turning to face her. In the early light, she looked tired, worried. "What is wrong?" "I heard what Sullivan said. About the mortgage, about you." She stepped closer. "This is my fault. I suggested Papa hire you, and now I have a job and a chance to rebuild my life. That is your doing, Bella. Sullivan's threats are his choice, his cruelty. But he is using you against my family." Franklin wanted nothing more than to reach out to comfort her, but he kept his hands at his sides. "Then we prove him wrong. We show the town that I am not a threat, that your father's faith is justified. We do not give Sullivan any ammunition." Bella looked up at him, and in her eyes he saw the same longing he felt. "Franklin, Miss Martinez," Miguel's voice called from the barn. "Your father needs you." The moment shattered. Bella stepped back, composing herself. "I should go." "Bella, wait." Franklin spoke without thinking, just knowing he could not let her leave with things unsaid. "Whatever Sullivan does, whatever the town thinks, you should know that working here, knowing you, it has meant everything to me. You gave me something I did not think I could ever have again. Hope." Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "You gave me something too. You reminded me that courage is not just standing up to people like Sullivan. It is letting yourself trust again, even when you have been hurt." Then she was gone, hurrying toward the barn, leaving Franklin standing there with his heart full and aching at the same time. The trouble, when it came, arrived on a Saturday afternoon in late October. Franklin was working alone in the equipment shed, repairing a harness, when he heard horses approach at speed. He emerged to find 5 men on horseback, Sullivan among them, along with the town sheriff, a weathered man named Dawson. "That is him," Sullivan said, pointing at Franklin. "The man I told you about." Sheriff Dawson dismounted, his hand resting casually on his gun. "Franklin Nash." "Yes, sir." "There has been a robbery. Morrison's store was broken into last night, money taken from the safe. Sullivan here says you are the most likely suspect, given your history." Franklin's stomach dropped. "I did not rob anyone. I have been here on the ranch." "Can anyone verify that?" The other hands. "We were all in the bunkhouse last night." "Convenient," Sullivan said. "All criminals together, providing alibis for each other." "That is a lie," Miguel's voice rang out. He strode toward them, Vicent and Bella emerging from the house behind him. "Franklin was with us all evening. We played cards until late." Sheriff Dawson looked uncomfortable. "Look, I do not want trouble, but I need to investigate." Nash, you will need to come with me, answer some questions. This is ridiculous, Bella said hotly. You have no evidence, just Sullivan's prejudice. Now, Miss Martinez, Sullivan began, do not patronize me. She moved to stand beside Franklin, a gesture of solidarity that made the other men shift uncomfortably. Franklin has been working here for 2 months without any problems. He is honest and hardworking. This is clearly an attempt to frame him. Or perhaps your judgment is clouded, Sullivan said smoothly. There has been talk, you know, about inappropriate familiarity between you and this man. A young woman like yourself, unchaperoned with a criminal. People are concerned. Vicent's face went red. How dare you imply I imply nothing? I merely state facts. Sullivan looked at the sheriff. Morrison estimates $50 was taken, a significant sum. We need to search Nash's belongings and the ranch. You will not search my property without cause, Vicent said firmly. Then you obstruct justice. Sheriff, you have the authority. Dawson sighed. I do not like this, but technically he is right. Nash, show me your bunk. Let me see you have nothing to hide. Franklin nodded, his mind racing. He had nothing to hide, but he also knew how easy it would be to plant evidence. He led them to the bunkhouse, aware of Bella, Vicent, and Miguel following close behind. His bunk was simple. A trunk with his few possessions, a blanket, a book Bella had lent him. Dawson searched through everything methodically while the other men watched. He found nothing. Well, Vicent demanded. Nothing here, Dawson admitted. Check the trunk again, Sullivan insisted. The bottom, perhaps. Dawson felt along the bottom of the trunk, and Franklin's heart sank as the sheriff's expression changed. He pulled out a small leather pouch, opened it, and revealed a stack of bills. That is not mine, Franklin said immediately. Someone planted that. Of course you would say that, Sullivan said triumphantly. Sheriff, that is clear evidence. It is planted evidence, Bella said desperately. Anyone could have put it there. Franklin has been working in the fields all week. The bunkhouse is unlocked during the day. Convenient excuse, one of Sullivan's men muttered. Dawson looked genuinely regretful. Nash, I have to take you in. This is enough for an arrest, at least until we sort it out. This is a setup, Miguel protested. Sullivan arranged this. Careful, Miguel, Sullivan said coldly. Accusations like that could be considered slander. Franklin felt the trap closing around him. He looked at Bella, seeing fear and anger warring in her expression, and made a decision. It is all right. I will go, answer questions, prove my innocence. The truth will come out. Franklin, no, Bella reached for his arm. I have to. If I resist, it only makes me look guilty. He met her eyes, trying to convey everything he could not say aloud. Trust me, I did not do this. I know you did not. Her voice was fierce. We will prove it. As Dawson led Franklin away in handcuffs, Sullivan smiled, a satisfied expression that made Vicent clench his fists. But it was Bella's face that stayed with Franklin as they rode toward town, the determination and fear mixed together, the promise in her eyes that she would not abandon him. The jail cell was small and cold, bringing back visceral memories of prison that made Franklin's skin crawl. But he forced himself to stay calm, to think. Someone had robbed Morrison's store, then planted the money in his trunk. Sullivan was the obvious suspect, but proving it would be another matter entirely. Dawson seemed uncomfortable with the whole situation. For what it is worth, Nash, you do not strike me as stupid enough to rob a store and hide the money in an obvious place in an unlocked building. I appreciate that, Sheriff, but I have evidence and pressure from important people. Unless you can prove where you were or someone can verify you did not leave the ranch last night, I have to hold you for trial. Franklin's hope sank. He had been in the bunkhouse, yes, but he had also gone outside twice during the night. once to check on a horse that had been colicky and once simply to clear his head. Either absence could have been used for a trip to town if someone wanted to argue it. How long until trial? Judge comes through in 2 weeks. Until then, you are here. After Dawson left, Franklin sat on the thin cot and put his head in his hands. He had been so close to building something real, to proving he could change. And now it was all falling apart, not because of his own actions but because of someone else's cruelty. Hours later, footsteps approached his cell. He looked up to find Bella standing there, gripping the bars with white-knuckled intensity. "Bella, you should not be here. It will only fuel the gossip." "I do not care about gossip." She looked exhausted and furious. "Papa and Miguel are investigating." Miguel rode back along the road from town and found tracks, evidence that someone made that ride last night. "We are trying to prove it was not you." Sullivan covered his tracks well. Whoever he hired to rob the store probably made sure of that. "Then we find another way." Her voice was fierce. "Franklin, I am not letting you go back to prison for a crime you did not commit." "Bella, no, listen to me." She pressed closer to the bars. "These past 2 months, you have become important to me. More important than is probably wise, given everything. But I do not care about wise anymore. I care about what is right, and what is right is proving your innocence and stopping Sullivan." Franklin's heart hammered. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I trust you, I believe in you, and she stopped, took a breath. "I care about you deeply, Franklin Nash. Whatever happens, I need you to know that." He reached through the bars, taking her hand, feeling the calluses and the warmth. "I care about you too. More than I have any right to. You are the best thing that has happened to me in longer than I can remember." They stood there, hands clasped through cold iron, until Sheriff Dawson cleared his throat from the doorway. "Miss Martinez, visiting hours are over." Bella squeezed Franklin's hand once more, then released it. "We will prove this, Franklin, I promise." After she left, Franklin lay awake on the cot, hope and despair mixing together. He believed she would try. He just did not know if trying would be enough against someone with Sullivan's power and influence. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Morrison, the store owner, stood outside the cell looking uncomfortable. "Nash, I need to talk to you." Franklin sat up. "What about?" "About the robbery." Morrison glanced back toward the sheriff's office, then lowered his voice. "Something has been bothering me. The safe in my store, only a few people know how to open it. I never told anyone the combination except my nephew who helps with the books." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that whoever robbed me knew exactly how to open that safe without damaging it. No scratches, no forcing. They opened it clean." Morrison gripped the bars. "Sullivan came by yesterday before the robbery was even reported, asking if I had counted my cash lately. At the time I thought it was odd, but I was busy and did not think more of it. But now—" Franklin leaned forward. "You think Sullivan knew about the robbery before it happened?" "I think Sullivan might have arranged it." Morrison looked scared now. "I cannot prove it. And even if I could, he owns the bank. He has power. I could lose everything if I accuse him." "Then why tell me?" Morrison met his eyes. "Because I have known Vicente Martinez for 15 years. He is a good man, and his daughter is twice the person most of this town will ever be. If Sullivan is framing you to hurt them, it is wrong. I cannot testify, I have too much to lose. But I can tell you this. My nephew Timothy has been spending a lot of money lately. New clothes, new saddle, more than I pay him." After Morrison left, Franklin called for Dawson and relayed the conversation. The sheriff listened, his expression thoughtful. "It is not proof, but it is interesting. I will talk to Timothy Morrison, see what he has to say. And if Sullivan paid him to help with the robbery, then we might have a case. But Sullivan is careful. Getting Timothy to turn on him will be hard." That afternoon, Vicent and Bella visited together. Vicent looked older, worry carving deeper lines in his face. Miguel found something. Whoever planted that money in your trunk left footprints in the dust outside the bunkhouse. Small prints, smaller than yours or any of our regular hands. Timothy Morrison is a small man, Bella added. We measured the prints and compared them to some of Timothy's old tracks near the store. They match. Hope flared in Franklin's chest. That is evidence. Circumstantial evidence, Vicent cautioned. But it is something. Dawson is bringing Timothy in for questioning. If we can get him to confess to implicate Sullivan. Sullivan will have made sure Timothy has more to lose by talking than by staying quiet, Franklin said grimly. Money, threats, something. They talked for a while longer, planning and strategizing until visiting hours ended. As Vicent headed for the door, Bella lingered, waiting until her father was out of earshot. Franklin, I have to ask you something. After this is over, assuming we prove your innocence, what will you do? The question surprised him. I had not thought that far ahead. Stay at the ranch if your father will keep me. Why? Bella looked down at her hands, uncharacteristically uncertain. Because I need to know if you are planning to stay in Raton or move on. I need to know if, she stopped, frustrated. I am not good at this. Letting people in, admitting feelings. My mother died when I was young and my father threw himself into work. I learned to be independent, to not need anyone, but you have changed that. Franklin's throat was tight. Bella, I am an ex-convict with nothing to offer you. Your father has been kind, but you deserve someone with prospects, with a real future. You are my prospect, she said fiercely. You are my future if you want to be. I know it is fast, I know it is complicated, but I also know that I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. And life is too short and too uncertain to pretend otherwise. I want that more than anything. But first, I need to clear my name. I will not come to you with this hanging over me. Then we clear your name together, she said simply. 2 days later, Sheriff Dawson came to the cell with news. Timothy Morrison cracked. Admitted that Sullivan approached him 3 weeks ago with a proposition. Timothy would rob his uncle's store, plant the money in your trunk, and Sullivan would pay him $50 plus, guarantee a loan Timothy needed for some debts. Franklin gripped the cell bars. That is proof Sullivan set me up. It is proof Sullivan approached Timothy with a plan, but Timothy says he did not go through with it, says he got cold feet and backed out, but someone else must have done it instead. That is a lie. Morrison said Timothy has been spending money he should not have. I know. But without direct proof that Sullivan paid him or that Timothy actually committed the robbery, I cannot arrest Sullivan. He is too well connected. Dawson looked frustrated. I believe you are innocent, Nash. But believing and proving are different things. That evening, Bella arrived with Miguel, both of them looking determined. We have a plan, Bella announced. Franklin immediately felt uneasy. What kind of plan? The kind that gets you out of here and proves Sullivan's guilt, Miguel said. But you are not going to like it. They explained quickly. Miguel had learned that Sullivan kept detailed records of all his dealings in a safe at his home. If they could get those records, they might find evidence of the payment to Timothy or other illegal activities. But it would require someone to break into Sullivan's house. Absolutely not, Franklin said immediately. That is illegal, dangerous, and if you are caught, it ruins everything. If we do not do something, you go to trial with circumstantial evidence and Sullivan's influence, Bella countered. The judge is friends with Sullivan. You could be convicted. Then I am convicted, but I will not let you risk yourselves for me. Too late, Bella said. We are already risking ourselves just by standing against Sullivan. This is the next step. Franklin looked at her, seeing the determination and the fear beneath it. He thought about prison, about the years he had lost, about the irony of being sent back for a crime he did not commit. But he also thought about Bella throwing away her reputation, possibly her freedom, to save him. There has to be another way. There is not, Miguel said bluntly. Sullivan has covered his tracks legally. The only way to expose him is to find evidence he thinks is hidden. I am going tonight. Miss Bella will keep watch. You just sit tight. Miguel, you could go to prison. The older man shrugged. I have lived a long life, taken risks before. This one is worth it. Before Franklin could argue further, they were gone, leaving him alone with fear churning in his gut. He paced the cell, mind spinning through every possible disaster. If Miguel was caught, Vicent would lose his foreman and friend. If Bella was implicated, her reputation would be destroyed. And it would all be because of him. The night stretched endlessly. Franklin did not sleep, could not sleep, just waited and worried and prayed to a God he was not sure listened to ex-convicts. Dawn was breaking when Sheriff Dawson appeared, accompanied by Vicent. The rancher looked exhausted and grim. Did something happen? Franklin demanded. Is Bella all right? She is fine, Vicent assured him. She and Miguel are at the ranch. Franklin, they found something. Dawson unlocked the cell door. Miguel broke into Sullivan's home last night and cracked his safe. Found ledgers documenting payments to Timothy Morrison and 3 other men for various illegal activities, including a payment of $50 marked MT matter 3 days ago. MT for Martinez, Vicent said. Sullivan paid Timothy to frame you, and he was stupid enough to keep a record of it. Franklin stepped out of the cell, hardly daring to believe it. So I am free. You are released pending investigation, Dawson corrected. And technically, Miguel committed a crime by breaking into Sullivan's house. But given what he found, and given Sullivan's obvious guilt, I am inclined to look the other way on the breaking and entering if Miguel is willing to testify about what he discovered. Where is Sullivan now? I have deputies bringing him in. He is not going to go quietly, but the evidence is damning. Dawson looked at Franklin seriously. You are lucky to have people who believe in you enough to take these risks. I know, Franklin said quietly. Believe me, I know. The ride back to the Martinez ranch felt surreal. Vicent was quiet, processing everything, and Franklin did not know what to say. When they arrived, Bella ran out of the house, and Franklin dismounted just in time to catch her as she threw her arms around him. You are all right, she breathed against his shoulder. I was so worried. He held her tight, not caring who saw, not caring about propriety. You took a huge risk, you and Miguel both. It was worth it. She pulled back to look at him, her eyes bright with relief and something deeper. You are free, Franklin, really free. Behind them, Vicent cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take this inside, let people talk somewhere less public. In the ranch house, Miguel was at the kitchen table with coffee, looking tired but satisfied. Glad you are out, amigo. You could have been arrested. You could have been killed if Sullivan caught you. Miguel shrugged. Sullivan is a coward who hires others to do his dirty work. His house security was pathetic. He took a sip of coffee. Besides, I owed it to Miss Maria, God rest her. She would have wanted me to protect her family, including the people they choose to care about. Franklin sat down heavily, overwhelmed. I do not know how to thank you all. You can thank us by staying, Vicent said. The ranch needs good workers, and you are one of the best I have had. More than that, you make my daughter happy. That is worth more than any amount of work. Bella blushed, but she did not contradict her father. Franklin looked at her, at the warmth in her eyes, and felt something tight in his chest finally loosen. I would like that, if Bella wants me to stay. I want you to stay, she said softly. The next week was chaos. Sullivan was arrested and charged with multiple crimes, including conspiracy, bribery, and accessory to theft. The town was shocked, then skeptical, then slowly accepting as evidence piled up. Timothy Morrison testified in exchange for leniency, detailing Sullivan's various illegal schemes. The banker's empire crumbled quickly once people knew the truth. Morrison, the store owner, publicly apologized to Franklin and the Martinez family, admitting he should have spoken up sooner. Other townspeople followed suit, though their apologies rang hollow to Franklin after the weeks of suspicion and hostility. Through it all, Bella stayed close, her presence a constant comfort. They worked together on the ranch, ate meals together, talked long into the evenings about everything and nothing. The other ranch hands accepted their growing closeness with good-natured teasing, and Vicent watched with the benevolent approval of a father who saw his daughter truly happy. One evening in late November, as the first snow dusted the mountains, Franklin found Bella in the barn tending to a mare about to foal. She looked up as he entered, her smile immediate and warm. "How is she doing?" Franklin asked, coming to stand beside her. "Restless. It will be tonight, I think." Bella stroked the mare's neck soothingly. "Papa used to bring me out here when I was little, let me help with the births. Mama said it was improper for a young lady, but Papa said any rancher needs to understand all aspects of the work. Your father is a wise man. He likes you, you know. Really likes you, not just tolerates you. He told me yesterday that you are the best thing that has happened to this ranch in years." Franklin moved closer, emboldened by the dim lamplight and the privacy. "What about you? What do you think I am?" Bella turned to face him fully, her expression open and vulnerable in a way that made his heart race. "I think you are the best thing that has happened to me, period." He stopped, searching for the right words. "I came here with nothing. I am still basically nothing. An ex-convict working for wages, living in a bunkhouse. But I love you. I have loved you since those first conversations over lunch, maybe even before that. You saw something in me worth saving when no one else did. You saved yourself," she said firmly. "I just gave you an opportunity. Everything else, the hard work, the honesty, the courage to face this town's judgment, that was all you. Then let me ask you properly." Franklin took her hands, feeling their warmth, the calluses that matched his own. "Arabella Martinez, I know I have little to offer except my heart and my promise to work hard and love you for the rest of my life. But if you will have me, I would be honored to be your husband." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her smile was radiant. "Franklin Nash, you have everything to offer that matters. Yes, I will marry you. Absolutely yes." He kissed her then, finally, a kiss that held all the longing and hope and love that had been building for months. The mare snorted softly behind them and they broke apart laughing, foreheads pressed together. "We should tell your father," Franklin said eventually. "He already knows. I told him weeks ago that I intended to marry you if you asked. And he did not shoot me. He said, and I quote, 'About time someone made an honest woman of you before you scandalized the whole territory with your lovesick looks.'" Bella laughed at Franklin's expression. "My father is more observant than people think." They told Vicent officially over dinner, though as Bella had predicted, he was unsurprised and pleased. "I will not lie and say I always imagined my daughter marrying an ex-convict," he said, raising his glass. "But I did imagine her marrying a good man with integrity and courage. Franklin, you are that man. Welcome to the family." Miguel and the other ranch hands celebrated enthusiastically, breaking out a bottle of whiskey saved for special occasions. As the evening wore on, Franklin found himself surrounded by people who had become family, accepted in a way he had never expected. Later, as he and Bella stood on the porch watching the stars, she leaned against him. "The town will talk, you know. Some of them will never fully accept us. I know. Does that bother you? Not even a little bit?" She turned to look at him. "We proved them wrong, Franklin. Sullivan expected us to fail, expected you to fail. The whole town was waiting for you to go back to your old ways, for me to realize I made a mistake. But we proved that love and trust and hard work matter more than prejudice and expectations." Franklin pulled her close, feeling the truth of her words settle in his bones. "We did not we? We proved love always wins." They were married in early December, in the small church in Raton with Reverend Thompson officiating. The ceremony was modest, attended by Vicent, Miguel, the ranch hands, and a surprising number of townspeople who had reconsidered their judgments after Sullivan's arrest. Morrison gave Bella away alongside her father, a gesture of apology she accepted graciously. Bella wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully preserved, a simple white gown with a patchy beadwork along the hem. Franklin wore his best clothes, purchased with his saved wages, and when he saw her walking down the aisle, he felt his eyes sting with tears. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she was his wife, his partner, his future. The vows were traditional, but when Franklin promised to love and cherish her for the rest of his days, he meant every word with an intensity that made his voice shake. And when Bella promised the same, looking at him with those deep brown eyes full of love and certainty, he knew he was the luckiest man alive. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables of food and music from a fiddler Miguel knew. They danced under the winter sky, Bella in his arms, the warmth of her body against his better than any fire. Vicent gave a speech about second chances and the strength of love, his voice thick with emotion. Miguel toasted to new beginnings. And Franklin, holding his wife, felt the last vestiges of his past finally release their grip. That night, in the small house Vicent had gifted them, a cabin on the eastern edge of the property, Bella and Franklin began their life together. They made love with the tenderness and passion of two people who had fought for their right to be together. And afterward, lying in the darkness with her head on his chest, Franklin felt peace for the first time in his adult life. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I love you too," she whispered back. "My husband." The words sent a thrill through him. Husband. He was someone's husband. He had a wife, a home, a future. All the things he thought he had forfeited when he made that terrible choice years ago, he had found again through grace and hard work and the love of an extraordinary woman. The winter passed peacefully. Franklin continued working the ranch, but now he had a stake in its success, a reason to push harder. Vicent began teaching him the business side, the accounts and planning, grooming him to eventually take over more responsibility. Bella worked beside him when she could, though as winter turned to spring, she began to tire more easily. It was Miguel who guessed first. "Miss Bella is with child," he told Franklin one morning in the barn, grinning. "I have seen that look before, the way she moves, the glow." "You are going to be a father, amigo." Franklin's heart stopped, then started again at double speed. A father. He was going to be a father. The joy was immediate and overwhelming, followed quickly by terror. What did he know about being a father? What if he failed? What if he was not good enough? But when Bella confirmed it that evening, her own joy and nervousness mirroring his, those fears faded into the background. They would figure it out together the way they figured out everything. "Are you happy?" she asked, watching his face. "Terrified," he admitted. "But yes, incredibly happy." She took his hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "This baby is a fresh start for both of us. No past, no prejudice, just a future full of possibilities." The pregnancy progressed through spring and summer. Bella remained active as long as she could, refusing to be coddled, but Franklin and Vicent conspired to lighten her load. The ranch prospered. the cattle market improving, and with Sullivan gone, the mortgage was refinanced under fair terms. In late September, on a warm afternoon with golden light streaming through the windows, Bella went into labor. Franklin paced outside their cabin while the midwife and Vicent's sister, who had come to help, attended to her. He heard her cries of pain and wanted to burst through the door to help somehow, but the women had firmly banished him. Miguel found him there, wearing a path in the dirt. "She is strong, that one. She will be fine. What if something goes wrong? Women die in childbirth." "They do. But Bella has her mother's strength and her father's stubbornness. She will fight for that baby and for you." Hours later, as the sun set in brilliant orange and pink, a baby's cry pierced the air. Franklin froze, then ran for the door. The midwife opened it, smiling. "You have a son, Mr. Nash." "A healthy boy." He entered to find Bella propped up in bed, exhausted and radiant, holding a tiny bundle. She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "Franklin, come meet your son." He approached on shaking legs, looking down at the impossibly small person in her arms. The baby had dark hair and was red-faced from crying, tiny fists waving. Franklin reached out one finger and the baby grasped it with surprising strength. "He is perfect," Franklin breathed. "You are perfect. We did it," Bella said softly. "We made a family." They named him Vicent Martin Nash, honoring both grandfathers, though everyone immediately called him Marty. Vicent Sr. wept when they told him, holding his grandson with the careful reverence of someone who understood the preciousness of second chances and new generations. The months that followed were exhausting and wonderful. Franklin learned to change diapers, to walk a colicky baby at 3 in the morning, to function on fragments of sleep. But he also learned the fierce, protective love of a parent, the way his heart expanded to accommodate this small person who depended on him completely. Bella was a natural mother, patient and loving, though she admitted privately that she was also terrified. "What if I am not enough? What if I fail him?" "You will not fail him," Franklin assured her. "You will love him and teach him and show him how to be strong and kind, just like you showed me." As Marty grew, the ranch continued to thrive. Franklin proved himself not just as a ranch hand but as a manager, taking on more responsibility as Vicent's health began to decline. The older man was still strong, but age and hard living were catching up. He spent more time teaching Franklin and Bella, ensuring they would be ready to run the ranch when the time came. The town, too, had changed. Sullivan's arrest and trial had exposed the rot of corruption and prejudice that had festered beneath Raton's respectable surface. New leadership emerged, people more interested in fairness than appearances. Franklin was no longer whispered about as that convict. He was just Franklin Nash, rancher and family man, someone who had made mistakes but rebuilt his life with grace. Not everyone accepted him. Some people held onto their prejudices, their belief that past sins could never truly be forgiven. But they were in the minority now, and Franklin had learned not to care about the opinions of people who valued judgment over compassion. When Marty was 2 years old, Bella discovered she was pregnant again. This time, Franklin felt less terror and more excitement, confident in their ability to handle whatever came. Their daughter was born in early spring, a squalling bundle of energy they named Maria Clara Nash, after Bella's mother. Vicent, holding his granddaughter with tears streaming down his weathered face, said, "Maria would have loved them so much. Would have loved you, Franklin. Thank you for making my daughter so happy, for giving me this family. You gave me everything, sir. A chance, a home, your daughter. I owe you more than I can ever repay. You repay me by being a good man, a good husband, a good father, by proving that people can change, can grow. That is enough." The years rolled forward. Marty grew into a bright, curious boy who loved the ranch and the animals. Maria was fearless and stubborn, with her mother's determination and her grandmother's spirit. Franklin taught them to ride, to rope, to respect the land and the work. Bella taught them to read and to think, to question and to care. Vicent passed away peacefully in his sleep when Marty was 7 and Maria was 5. The whole town came to the funeral, paying respects to a man who had built something lasting through integrity and hard work. Franklin spoke at the service, his voice breaking as he talked about the man who had given him a second chance when the world was ready to give up on him. Vicent Martinez taught me that a man is not defined by his worst moment, but by how he chooses to live after it, Franklin said, looking out at the gathered crowd. He taught me that family is not just blood but choice. And he taught me that standing up for what is right is never easy but always necessary. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man he believed I could be. Afterward, as they gathered at the ranch, Miguel, now in his 70s but still spry, pulled Franklin aside. "You are the head of this family now. Vicent knew you would take care of everything he built. I am going to try. Keep the ranch going, raise the children right, honor his memory. You already do that every day." Miguel smiled. "He was proud of you, you know. Told me many times that hiring you was one of the best decisions he ever made." In the years that followed, Franklin and Bella worked to expand the ranch, buying adjoining land, improving their stock, building something that would last for generations. It was not always easy. There were droughts and harsh winters, cattle diseases and market crashes. But they faced everything together, leaning on each other's strength. Marty, as he grew into a young man, showed interest in the business side of ranching, learning the books and planning. Maria, to everyone's amusement, proved to be the best rider and roper in the family, fearless in a way that made Franklin's heart stop regularly. When Marty was 18 and Maria was 16, another child arrived unexpectedly. Bella, at 43, had thought her childbearing years were over, but life had other plans. Their second son, Samuel, was born healthy and loud, bringing renewed energy and joy to the ranch. "We are starting over again," Franklin said, holding the baby while Bella rested. He was 50 now, gray threading his dark hair, his body marked by decades of hard work. But he had never been happier. "Not starting over," Bella corrected, smiling at him with the same warm eyes that had captured his heart so many years ago. "Continuing, building on what we created." The children grew, the ranch prospered, and Franklin and Bella grew old together, still working side by side, still finishing each other's sentences, still deeply in love. They added onto the cabin, creating a proper ranch house that reflected their growing family. The walls filled with photographs and memories, evidence of a life well lived. On their 25th wedding anniversary, the whole town came to celebrate. Morrison, now elderly but still running his store, gave a speech about second chances and the importance of looking beyond surfaces. The Reverend, grayer but no less passionate, talked about redemption and grace. And Franklin, standing with Bella beside him and their children surrounding them, felt the full weight of how far they had come. 25 years ago, I rode into Raton with nothing but mistakes and regrets," he said to the gathered crowd. "This town expected me to fail. Many of you expected me to fail. But this woman, my wife, saw something worth saving. She offered me a chance, not just at a job, but at a life. And together, we proved that love, real love built on trust and respect and hard work, can overcome anything." He turned to Bella, taking her hands. "You are my miracle, Bella, my second chance, my home, my everything. I love you more today than I did on our wedding day, which I did not think was possible." Bella, with tears in her eyes, kissed him in front of everyone, to cheers and applause. "We proved them wrong, Franklin. We proved love always wins." Miguel, now in his 90s and the guest of honor almost as much as the anniversary couple, stood shakily. "I remember when Franklin first came to the ranch. I did not trust him. I tested him hard, expected him to quit or steal or prove everyone right. But he did not. He worked harder than any man I ever knew. And Miss Bella, she saw his heart before any of us did. They built something beautiful together. A family, a legacy, a love that this town will talk about for generations. That is what happens when you give people chances and when they are brave enough to take them." The party lasted late into the night, with music and dancing and stories. Franklin watched his children laugh with friends, saw Marty dancing with a young woman from town, noticed Maria teaching her younger brother to dance. Samuel, now 7, ran around with the other children, part of a new generation that would never know the prejudice and suspicion their parents had faced. Later, after everyone had gone home and the ranch was quiet, Franklin and Bella sat on the porch of their house, watching the stars. She leaned against him, his arm around her shoulders, and they sat in comfortable silence. "You ever think about that first day?" Bella asked eventually. "When I saw you in the stable with Luna all the time. I think about how close I came to just riding away, to never stopping in Raton at all. What would have happened to you?" Franklin considered. "I do not know. Another town, another set of suspicions. Maybe I would have found work eventually, maybe not. But I would never have found this. Found you." "Found us," Bella corrected. "We found each other, Franklin. We both needed what the other offered. I needed someone who saw me as more than half Apache, more than Vicent's daughter, someone who understood what it meant to be judged unfairly. And I needed someone who believed I could be more than my worst mistake, someone who took a chance." They sat quietly for a while longer, then Bella said, "I am glad you returned that horse." Franklin laughed. "So am I. Best decision I ever made." As they went inside, ready for bed after the long celebration, Franklin paused to look at the photographs lining the hallway. His wedding day, Bella glowing beside him, Vicent holding baby Marty, the family in front of the new barn, Maria on her first horse, Samuel's first birthday. A life captured in frozen moments, each one precious. He thought about the young man who had ridden into Raton 27 years ago, broken and hopeless. That man would not have believed this future was possible. Would not have dared to dream of a wife like Bella, children, a prosperous ranch, respect earned through honesty and hard work. But it had all happened, not through luck but through choice. The choice to take the chance offered. The choice to work hard and stay honest. The choice to believe in love even when it seemed impossible. The choice to prove that people could change, that the past did not have to define the future. "Franklin," Bella called from their bedroom. "Are you coming?" "Yes," he said, taking one last look at the photographs, at the evidence of their life together. "I am coming." He joined her in bed, pulling her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. They had built this together, brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. And tomorrow they would keep building, keep growing, keep proving that love always wins. In the darkness, Bella whispered, "I love you, Franklin Nash." "I love you too, Bella Nash. Always." They fell asleep in each other's arms, surrounded by the life they had created, the family they had built, the future they had earned. The town of Raton had expected them to fail, had watched and waited for the ex-convict and the half-Apache woman to prove all the prejudices right. But Franklin and Bella had proven something else entirely. They had proven that love built on trust and respect could overcome any obstacle. That second chances, when met with courage and hard work, could lead to extraordinary lives. That the past, no matter how dark, did not have to determine the future. They had proven beyond any doubt that love always wins. And in the years that followed, as their children grew and had children of their own, as the ranch continued to prosper and the family expanded, that lesson remained. The Nash family became a symbol in Raton, a story told to new generations about overcoming prejudice and believing in redemption. Franklin lived to see his grandchildren grow, to teach Marty's sons to rope and ride, to watch Maria's daughter become the first woman to compete in the local rodeo, to bounce Samuel's children on his knee. He and Bella grew old with grace, their love deepening rather than fading, their partnership as strong at 70 as it had been at 30. When Franklin finally passed away at the age of 76, with Bella holding his hand and his children surrounding his bed, his last words were, "Thank you for seeing me, for loving me, for giving me this life." And Bella, tears streaming down her face, whispered back, "Thank you for being worth seeing, for loving me back, for building this life with me." Franklin was buried beside Vicent on the hill overlooking the ranch, and the whole town came to pay respects. The service celebrated a life well lived, a man who had made mistakes but had spent decades proving that redemption was real, that change was possible, that love could conquer even the darkest past. Bella lived another 8 years, spending them surrounded by family, telling stories of their early days to grandchildren who could hardly believe the prejudice and suspicion their grandparents had faced. She remained sharp and fierce until the end, defending Franklin's memory against anyone who tried to reduce him to his criminal past. When she finally joined him on that hill, the inscription on her headstone read, "Beloved wife, mother, grandmother." She proved love always wins. And the Nash family continued, generation after generation, built on the foundation Franklin and Bella had laid. A foundation of hard work, integrity, courage, and above all, love. The ranch prospered through the decades, adapting to changing times but holding fast to the values that had made it strong. The story of Franklin and Bella became legend in Raton, told and retold, embellished and romanticized. But at its core remained the simple truth. An ex-convict and a woman marked by prejudice had found each other, had chosen to believe in something better, had worked together to build a life that transcended their circumstances. They had proven to themselves and to a doubting town that love, real love built on respect and trust and partnership, could overcome anything. That the power of two people choosing each other, supporting each other, fighting for each other was stronger than any obstacle. They had proven, beyond any possible doubt, that love always wins, and in the end, that was the only legacy that mattered. Not the ranch, not the money, not the respect eventually earned. But the proof, written in years and children and countless small moments of devotion, that when two people truly commit to each other, when they face the world together with courage and hope, there is nothing they cannot overcome. Franklin Nash and Arabella Martinez Nash had taken their broken pieces and created something whole. They had turned suspicion into respect, prejudice into acceptance, hopelessness into joy. They had built a family, a legacy, a love story for the ages. And every time someone in Raton told their story, it ended the same way. The town expected them to fail. The cowboy and his bride proved love always wins, every time, always, forever.